is this came from a sample of urine extracted from the top of the water of the urine. And see, after the urine has putrefied for some time and the ammonium nitrates and phosphates start to build up at the bottom of the container, there's also this oil, which I've spoken of in previous videos, this oil that builds up on the surface of the urine. Now, you see how it moves very swiftly. It moves very, very swiftly, almost like mercury. Its viscosity is very, very thin, and so it doesn't move quite like water would move in this flask. Like ordinary water in this flask would not move this swift. This is mostly concentrated oil that's been decocted. Basically, I distilled the urine that I gathered or poured out from the top of a bottle that had been putrefying for months. Now, this is the peacock's tail concentrated, essentially. And by that, what I mean when I say the peacock's tail, or the tail feather of the peacock, see, it's some people and some scholars and alchemists and people who study this art believe that the peacock's feather was like signifying some kind of color change, but that's not necessarily the case. It's actually referring to the peacock tail kind of color that the oil acquires when it is collecting on the surface of the urine. Now, if you don't believe me, you can observe this for yourself. You can actually observe the peacock's feather. Just don't flush your toilet for a couple days and let the urine just putrefy in the toilet, and you'll come back and you'll see an oil on the top of the water. And that oil is very similar to like the rainbow-like color of oil that comes out of a vehicle or something, out of a car. But this was urine that I collected from the top, which contained the oil, which is our Argent Vive, or our philosophical Mercury. It even moves very swiftly like mercury. It's very, very slick. It's a very slick substance. Incredibly slick. I was actually impressed with this, how it came out. But I have in another container somewhere over there, I have the actual water that was distilled from the urine from this container into another container. Now, so if you aren't familiar with the word decoction, to decoct something is like, it's like when you simmer something down so that you concentrate it. So this is very concentrated admixture of water from urine and the oil from the urine, and it's mostly pure oil. But anyway, if I add this to the white stone after putting about 1/4 ratio of gold filings or gold powder into my white stone and letting it ferment with gold, then I can use this, I can add this to the sample to accelerate the process of the reddening, because there's already a redness in the Argent Vive. The oil already has and contains a redness of color, but yeah, without much of this oil, it's going to take longer to actually produce the red stone. The red stone, basically, it's red because of red phosphorus is in it, and there's I'm sure traces of red phosphorus that are in this oil, which it gives it that kind of brown red color. But if you look closely, you look at it pretty close, it's almost like blood. When you shake it around, it creates like a yellow, like the plasma of blood. Yeah, it's got a super slick viscosity. anyways, to collect this, you'll need to use a distillation system. You'll need to use a retort and a receiver. And I prefer to use a sand bath over a stove instead of an open fire, because fires are harder to control. But anyway, yeah, so this is our philosophical Mercury, our Argent Vive, our peacock's feather, and yeah. Now, in this oil is a fire, essentially. According to Hermes, the earth and the fire must be separated. Separate thou the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross. Well, you do this by the alembic distilling process. And an alembic distillation system is different than a retort and receiver distillation system. An alembic recirculates the vapors back up and down into the place from whence they came. Now, so when you're working with the alembic system, the fire in the oil evaporates. The oil evaporates and carries the fiery nature with it upward and separates the earthy mass below from the fire, but eventually reconjoining them back again in a harmonious way that is not gross, and it separates the subtle from the gross and reconfigures it into stone. Now, yeah, so I've collected this so that I can enhance some of the red stones in the future. I used to actually enhance red stones by increasing their phosphorus level. I would increase the amount of phosphorus that was in it by crushing match heads and grinding them into powder, adding them to the stone that was already dissolved, so that they could receive extra phosphorus, because phosphorus is a very active ingredient when it comes to transmutation of metals, and you seem to get better results when there's higher phosphorus content in the material. Something about the fiery nature of phosphorus has a way of affecting the metals and coaxing them into transmutation. Anyways, yeah, figured I'd share with you all a little about that. But yeah, this ain't easy work. It takes time. It takes patience. You gotta know how to work with your tools and equipment. You gotta know how to work with your substance and not rush it too much. Over time, you'll learn how to do it faster and faster. It used to take me like almost a year, just to produce like an 8-gram batch of stone powder, and I could only do so many experiments with it. But nowadays I can produce a white stone and I can produce a red stone in a matter of 3 to 6 months of patience and labor. But yeah. Anyways, y'all like and subscribe, and hit me up if you got any questions. I'm on Facebook all the time. I use Facebook to reach out and share this kind of information with people too. And don't be shy and send a friend request. And you message me. I'm not shy. So